Okay, just arrived hot off the press, the CycleOps Magnus Wheel-On Smart Trainer. Think of this as the kicker snap is to the kicker from Wahoo. This is the Magnus to the hammer. Very similar price points to the other two products from Wahoo. This one's from Madison, Wisconsin, from the team out of CycleOps/PowerTap/Saris. The box says Cyclops for this though, so let's go with that. Today, unboxing, build, and first ride. And we dive into the data on this unit itself and we have a chat about the ride. Oh, just before I take the lid off and we get stuck into this, dual Bluetooth 4.0 and ANT+ FEC compatibility, up to 1500 watts of resistance, so more than I can put out indoors. Flywheel size of just over a kilo, 1.17 kilo flywheel, so I'm keen to see how that goes. That's pretty light on for a flywheel. And it has a nice ratchet cam, so you can't ever over tighten the wheel on. So there's a few specs of the unit. Now let's get the box open. More boxes. Power pack, first guess. There we go. And another bigger box. That'll be the resistance unit. That's got a bit of weight behind it. But first of all, let's get the frame out. And then that'll be it, I think. Yep. Oh, it's super light. Actually, that's really light to bring that out. So get that out of the way. That looks very, very similar to the Fluid 2. I have a Fluid 2 over here in the corner from CycleOps from years ago. So once I've built this, I'll put it side by side and have a look. But that's a pretty lightweight frame. Oof, well built though. Okay. Nearly put it through my pants too. Okay, cool. Let's sit this there. Right, okay, extra power cables for what I need. Rightio, so we have British, we have American, we have Europe, we have Australian. There's what we're after. We'll keep that for later. Assembly kit. Okay, let's place all this out. Okay, looking at all the parts here, we have the frame itself, we have the turn dial cam unit, which is the resistance unit thing. We have the power supply over here, resistance unit and manuals, and we have a really good skewer that's come with it as well, heavy duty skewer, and we have the top of the range lock-in, which bolts into up the top here. So we have the manual as well. Now, I usually throw these away, but given there's a bit to actually put together here, I'm going to quickly read the manual. Yes, I know, but I'll quickly read the manual. It's for the best for everyone. And I'll learn how to put this together perfectly the first time. GHI, okay, so the cam unit, slide that across there. It's this little bit here, okay, so that cam shaft goes on. And,
holy crow, you can read! Input.
Okay, I think I've got it. Here's where we'll start with these parts. I now know where that goes. There's our turn dial. I now know where that goes. We're starting off with these two parts here. Now, according to every other single trainer in the world, the resistance unit goes on that side. That goes on that side. But we have a little part here. Slides in there. That then fits snug onto... There we go. Okay, that locks straight into place. So I now know it's in the right spot. You don't over tighten that too much because this resistance unit still has to move back and forth. So the L-bolt installation is just a simple L-bolt like that. We also have a split pin they've supplied as well so it doesn't pop out. That looks like it slides in there, that'll slide in there. And to get the split pin in, we need to put this through here. So split pin installed, and you can see as soon as we pull that over there like that. Peekaboo. So the final pieces we have for the build are the bolt action tube, they call this, and the lollipop. The tapered end, which goes into a rear skewer, goes in that side. So we thread this through here, like so. And there's a thread that that'll just turn into. And there we have it. So that's it, unit built. The apple doesn't fall too far from the tree. This is the CycleOps Fluid 2 standard trainer and the CycleOps Magnus, which is a smart trainer. So there's a lot more smarts built into this, but very similar looking units. To fit my road bike in here, we have to move this side out to the further position on that side. That's open, that's out far enough. And we're on. And it's always good practice to clean your wheel if it's been outside, just so you don't introduce any dirt or grit to get scuffs on the roller. The tyre is now clean and pumped up to 100 psi. Let's have a look at this mechanism here for screwing the roller on. Now the correct technique here is not to push in on the unit, just to simply turn it and let it click into place, and that's all we need to do. There we go. You can hear the click there. It's not moving any further forward, and that should be the optimal pressure on the roller here. And then power. We've loaded the power tap app here to connect to the trainer and make sure it has the latest firmware. Okay, we have a Magnus we can connect to. Oh, connected, that was easy. Update available. So the update was available as of last week. Let's do a firmware update on this now. And there we have it. About 2.5 minutes to perform the firmware update, and we're good to go. Another feature I've just spotted is asymmetric feet here. So if you've got uneven ground, you can turn those and level your trainer out using the feet. So that covers the unboxing and the building of the unit, and a few other things such as firmware updates and how to correctly tension that rear knob. Now it's time to get on the bike and ride the unit. Let's go. I've done my standard 10-minute warm-up on the unit. Nothing calibrated just yet, just warming the unit up and getting everything settled down. My initial impressions straight away were, this is a slog to get started. So you really have to turn the pedal stroke over top. As I suspected with that small weighted flywheel, there's not a lot of inertia. It's not a lot of kick over of the pedal. So for an indoor trainer, this is definitely a trainer. I'm training. As for an indoor simulator, we'll see how it goes. Even on the flat ground here, it's sort of a little choppy with the pedal stroke. Again, good training, good simulation, I'm not so sure. So what we're doing now, after the 10-minute warm-up, we'll do the calibration, which is the spin down, and we'll get those power numbers lined up. So I found the Calibrate trainer under the virtual training software. Okay, here we go, here's the spin down process now. So I wasn't happy with the first spin down that I did, so I did another one, and the numbers came pretty close. Within about 5%, maybe 10, we'll have a look at the data later. The unit feels better in erg mode, I must say. In sim mode, when I hit the ramps, this is a fair climb right now. For a wheel-on trainer, it's got a lot of bite. Look, for these units, there's always compromise. You're never gonna have the accuracy of a 1% or less strain gauge power meter or something like the Neo with the way it measures power. The beauty of these units are though, I think when they're paired to another power meter, such as the power meter on your bike, and you just turn these units into a smart resistance unit. So your numbers will always be spot on with your power meter. That's probably the benefit if you've got a power meter on your bike as well. If not, near enough's good enough. Still always room to improve though. Okay, so that's the 20-minute steady state out of the way, in which I did 200 watts and then I bumped it to 220 because 200 got a bit boring there. And we kept the unit honest. Now, I guess you want to see me sprint this unit. The resistance that kicked in and bit me in the ass on that hill sprint, that was quite impressive from just a little unit here with not much of a flywheel, but when it bites, it's got a lot of bite. So we'll have a look at the data, we'll compare that in a minute. But for, if you were doing power matching though, that would be just fine. That was a real good kick, totally good kick that had. But again, back to sim mode, still just laboring the pedal over. There's no freewheeling. We'll have a chat about that in a minute. So with the rides out of the way, let's head over to DC Rainmaker's Analyzer tool and have a look at the data that we collected from those. You can see here, as I mentioned, I wasn't happy with the first calibration of the spin down. There's a lot of separation there. There was around about 25 to 30 watts difference between the PowerTap P1 pedals and the Magnus at 200 watts. Not quite for my liking, so I stopped the ride here, recalibrated. So after the calibration was done, my just riding along there, you can see on the left, right here, pretty close. Then into erg mode. At 200 watts, the difference between the PowerTap pedals and the CycleOps Magnus was around about 5% power difference, so 10 watts at 200 watts, so it was within spec. When I bumped it up to 220 watts for the last 10 minutes there of the test, they track really nicely, but the Magnus is just a little bit down. Again, many factors contributing to that. It's definitely within spec, and where it's measuring power too, it's well down the units or well down the system. Then into some just riding along, so I'll zoom into that. And you can see the numbers there, pretty close, very close. That's at lower wattage, around 100 or so watts. And then the sprint up that hill. Let's have a look at the sprint responsiveness, which is something that I look into for every trainer, every power meter device that I'm looking at these days. You can see here, that's where I come through the steps there on the London course, up into the flat section, and then I jam on the pedals, and the responsiveness is pretty good. It's straight away, it responds, there's no lag there at all. The Magnus overshoots by about 100 watts from the pedals, and then things come back down. Now the overshooting, again, to be expected, these aren't a power meter, it's a power estimator based on a number of calculations inside the unit, and there's a lot of things that are happening in there. Budget level smart trainers, you're gonna have that kind of compromise. You're not gonna have that dead set level accuracy, but the responsiveness, pretty good. Scrolling down to the mean max power, which gives us an indication of how it performs over the ranges that I tested it in for that ride. And there's not a lot of separation between the two. So the 1 minute power was within 5 watts, and the 2 minute power through to 20 minutes or so, you're looking at about 5% difference between the PowerTap pedals and the trainer. So well within spec. Head to head at the same price point, I'd lean towards more the Kicker Snap. It has a bigger flywheel, a bit more of a beefier unit, and can simulate flat roads and descents a little bit better than the Magnus itself. That's not to say the Magnus is a bad unit, it just lacks a bit of, I guess, grunt. Grunt that we do see in the Hammer, we just haven't seen that flow down to the Magnus itself with a bit more weight in that flywheel. I think that would fix a lot of problems with the unit. Price point wise, if you can pick up a Magnus for a lot cheaper than the Snap, it's a good option. If you've got a power meter already on your bike, then it's a brilliant smart resistance unit. You saw up the hills there that when it kicked in that resistance, I couldn't turn the pedals over, so that you don't need any more resistance than that. Well, I certainly don't. So in wrap up, not a bad entry-level smart trainer. Takes a little bit to get right with the calibration. If you have your own power meter, it's not a problem. So if you can find a good price on one, you won't be disappointed. All right, thanks for watching. Your subscriptions, likes, and comments, always appreciated. We'll see you soon.